Hi, this is Skip Stewart, Chief Improvement Officer with Baptist Memorial Healthcare. Once again, today we'd like to talk about the voice of the process. When it comes to the voice of the process, we're dealing with this third helpful question. How will you know when you've accomplished your challenge? If you remember, there's two principles for understanding data. One principle says no data have meaning apart from their context. And the second one says, while every data set contains noise, some data sets may contain signals. Therefore, before you can detect a signal within any given data set, you must first filter out the noise. And we're going to deal with this principle today. Remember from the last video that this right here is a simple run chart, and it's a graph where one scale represents time and the other scale represents values of the measure of interest. That solid green line that you see on the screen is just the average of those values. This is a run chart of the overtime percent each pay period for a hospital. Any measure you might use will vary in the normal course of events. Some periods it'll go up and other periods it'll go down. If you do not know how to determine when a change has occurred, you will have difficulty in separating meaningless changes from a signal of a real change that you're actually making progress towards your challenge or goal. Now, the goal here provided by a leader is 2.5%, which is the voice of the customer. But remember, comparing numbers to goals will not lead to the improvement of the process. If we calculate what is known as natural process limits, those red dashed lines, on both sides of the average of this run chart, we have created what is known as a process behavior chart, which is the voice of the process. The process behavior chart allows you to differentiate between routine, normal variation and exceptional variation. It allows you to characterize the behavior of your process as being either predictable or unpredictable. If you remember that second principle that we talked about earlier of understanding data, it said that while every data set contains noise, some data sets may contain signals. Therefore, before you can detect a signal within any given data set, you must first filter out the noise. We're about to see this here. If you remember an earlier video on the introduction to exceptional variation, we spoke about rule number 2 for a signal of exceptional variation, which is when 8 or more successive values fall on the same side of the central line, the solid green line. When this occurs, it is safe to say that the time series is actually shifted away from the central line. One can see right there on the screen the run of 8 points above the central line labeled with rule number 2. Since sustained shifts are not likely to happen by chance, such sustained shifts is said to be due to an assignable cause of exceptional variation. In other words, you're actually getting a signal right now that something's going on. Exceptional variation is attributed to assignable causes, which by definition dominate the many common causes of routine normal variation. The process is trying to tell you it has a problem. Each and every signal on a process behavior chart represents an opportunity to gain more insight into your process. When a process is unpredictable, like this one is, the outcomes will vary without regard for those natural process limits. An unpredictable process is not operating up to its potential because it's subject to the effects of assignable causes of exceptional variation. So since this process is unpredictable, the outcomes could vary outside of those red dashed lines, the natural process limits, on any given pay period. By finding and removing the effects of these assignable causes, you can substantially improve both process consistency and process outcomes. Now, if the potential of this process is anywhere from, looks like anywhere under 2% to as high as 4% with an average of 3%, if that's not acceptable, then you must fundamentally change the process. Goals are the voice of the customer, not the voice of the process. The goal approach does not reveal any insight into how the process works. Now, please do not misunderstand. We need goals, but we must understand the difference between the voice of the customer and the voice of the process if we hope to ultimately have these two voices in alignment. Here are the two mistakes that many times we make when analyzing data, and you can hit pause if you'd like to think about those some more. But there are three things that most people do when they're encouraged to go after a goal. One is they can work to improve the system if they know how, or many times they will unintentionally distort the system or distort the data. Here are some great resources. Until next time, show me your thinking.